Hello, crafty friends, and welcome to another WIP and Chat, work in progress and chat. Today I will be working on a diamond painting. It's been a long time since I took a diamond painting out at all. This is the last one that I had worked on. So if you watch my last diamond painting in chat, which I think is just called WIP and Chat. I was actually working on this painting and I was working on this section here. So you can see that I finished out that section. I had actually filmed a 2-hour session and then did a voiceover. So I don't think you saw me complete this part in that video because I saved it for another WIP and Chat and then I lost the video file. So as these things go. But we're back for another WIP and Chat. Pardon as I take sips of drink. It's pretty warm here today. So yes, so this diamond painting, let me give you a little bit of information about what I'll actually be working on, and then I'll get into the WIP and Chat, which this is part 2 of Vegas Baby. So I'm going to talk about the rest of my trip to Las Vegas and probably get into some other stuff. We'll see. We'll see. I'm planning on doing this for about an hour, so we'll see where the hour takes us. But this particular diamond painting, I'm going to zoom in once I finish talking about it. This is Hamsa White Elephant from Diamond Art Club, and during this portion in editing, I'll put an image here so you can see better what it actually looks like when it's finished. But yeah, so this is from Diamond Art Club. It's one of the very few U.S.-based diamond painting companies, and they do fully license their artwork, so their artists get paid, or artists get paid for the work that they use in their diamond paintings. It's very important to me. This is one of my favorites. I've had this kit for a long, long time. And by long, long time, I mean 2 or 3 years. But pardon, I have hiccups. So a long, long time in diamond painting years. And I just finally, earlier this year, started actually working on it. So let's get into the diamond painting. I'm not going to talk a lot about technique here, just because I don't feel that you necessarily need me to. We're basically just going to chat, and let me now get closer in so you can actually see what I'm doing. Now that you've had a chance to kind of see what it is that I'm working on, and hopefully you'll actually be able to see the drills as I'm working on them, and hopefully I'll be able to see where I'm placing things too. It's been a while since I did this, so I apologize if I'm a little rusty. Let me get in there really close. How's that? Is that close enough? Y'all let me know. Okay. So, my Vegas vacation. So when last we left, last time we were chatting, I was talking about having been to Fremont Street in the morning. So this is our second full day in Vegas. We went to Fremont Street in the morning, and then in the evening we decided to go to Area 15, which also encompasses Meow Wolf. So Meow Wolf is this really interesting, like, multi-sensory experience. They have multiple locations. Vegas is one of their newer ones, and the theme in the Vegas location of Meow Wolf is Omega Mart, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But Area 15 as a location is very, very interesting. So it's this giant sort of warehouse space, and I mean it's just like a massive like distribution center warehouse size building, and on the outside they have several statues, different kinds of 3D artwork, including this massive robot dude who's sort of passed out on the ground. It's really kind of cool. If you follow me on Instagram, you can see some of those pictures, because I did post those when we went to Meow Wolf, or when we went to Area 15, and those the statues are pretty cool. There's a really beautiful owl made out of, I want to say it was like made out of sheet metal that had been painted. It was really, really gorgeous. And the robot, the giant robot, there was a silver statue of a couple embracing. There was this crystalline sort of entryway arch. So lots of really cool stuff on the outside, and that's just the outside. So there's some really cool stuff on the outside, and then you go inside and it's dark and they've got black lights, and it's really psychedelic with neon painting on the walls and stuff, and it's just it's an experience, definitely an experience. So there's this really kind of trippy rave vibe happening. There's this giant skull where they've got stuff, they have images projecting on it, sort of like a kaleidoscope, and just switching colors here. So they've got this sort of kaleidoscope projecting onto the skull, and it makes for really, really interesting patterns. Let's see, I guess we'll do S next. Which one is S? That's number 17. You know, so the skull has all kinds of different cool stuff. These are specialty ones. Is this right? Yes, okay. 742, but special. Okay. Oh no, it's not special ones. Never mind. They look like they were AB diamonds, but they're not. So yeah, so the skull has all kinds of different artwork being projected onto it, and that's pretty much the first thing you see as you step into Area 15, is this big giant skull, and it's all dark, and there's a gift shop with all kinds of, you know, psychedelic outfits and just different kinds of stuff. There's a couple of different places to eat, and you go in and it's just, you know, all of this neon crazy artwork, and a couple of different types of experiences that you can buy extra tickets to get involved in. A couple of different VR experiences, including a Van Gogh exhibit. And there's actually a ride that you can get on where you get into this like sort of zip line harness, and you actually ride what amounts to a zip line around the ceiling of the building. Like, how crazy is that, right? You know, so there's people riding around in the sky above you when you come in. It's dark and there's rave music playing, and it's an experience in and of itself, just going into the building. And then you can go and participate in other experiences if you want. You can dine, you can, you know, there's a lot of different stuff that you can get into. And then another thing that you can get into is Meow Wolf. So we spent a little bit of time because our tickets weren't until 6 o'clock, I think. So we spent a little time just kind of hanging out and absorbing the vibe. Actually, towards the back of the place, on the second floor, there is this bar arcade, which is, for me, I felt like that was for the straights in the group, because straight meaning like straight edge folks in the group who weren't into like the psychedelic rave vibe, because it was a much more like rock and roll video game bar kind of scene, whereas the rest of it was very trippy. This was like more of a normal bar with an arcade and stuff. So I felt like that was for the folks that couldn't deal with the neon rave vibe outside. And when we first went in there, they were playing nothing but Foo Fighters songs, which I didn't have a problem with. I love the Foo Fighters. So that was really kind of cool. So we hung out in there a bit, and we just kind of explored everything, the couple of gift shops that were there, all that kind of stuff. And you know, just kind of got into the groove of the place, and it was really very fun. And I probably could have hung out there for several more hours, but then we went into Meow Wolf. And so this whole Omega Mart thing, so on the surface, on the outside, the parts that you can see from the outer portion of Area 15 itself, it looks like a grocery store. It looks like a giant grocery store, and it looks like a normal grocery store, but if you look more closely at the signage and the products, there's all sorts of surreal kind of things happening. So the products are weird things like tattooed chicken, and I can't even remember all of them. Mostly I remember the tattooed chicken. So it was like canned tattoo chicken, and these like cat and dog treats that were made out of weird ingredients, and it's just all kinds of stuff like that. And I wish I had I wish I had taken more pictures when I was in there, but I was too busy just kind of like soaking it all in. You know, so this is the stuff that you can see from the outside. And then you go inside, and there's layers upon layers of things happening inside this Omega Mart. So you go inside, and not only do you see more trippy things, but you start to see that there are hidden entrances and hidden paths, and you can go into the cold case, like the dairy section, and you can open the cold case doors and you can walk through into an area behind the grocery store. And if you explore back there, you can go upstairs and downstairs. There's 3 levels to this place, and there's all kinds of rooms to go into and explore, and staircases appearing out of nowhere, and all in amongst it, there are these people who work there, you know, these actors who are portraying all of these random roles. Like, so in the front of the store, they're dressed up like store employees, cleaning up spills and chatting back and forth to each other. You have people posing as grocery store shoppers, and it's all just very, you know, it's interesting because it's hard to tell what's real and what's fake, and you know, what's going on and what's not going on. And then there are these different kiosks where you can scan a grocery store card that you've been given, and you get clues, and there's actually apparently some kind of mystery that you can solve. So it's almost like this incredibly elaborate escape room, except you don't have to escape. You just wander around and you try to solve the puzzle. So yeah, there's so much going on. I can't even explain it all. It is the trippiest place. And I don't think, I probably didn't even see half or a quarter of the place. I mean, it was just, there was just so much going on. And a lot of it was, there's so many people. I just kind of got overwhelmed, and I wasn't quite able to get to and see all the things I was trying to get to and see. So I got what I wanted out of it. And then I was like, okay, I gotta go chill now. And I left my friend to continue exploring because she was like super into the puzzle and trying to figure stuff out. And so I let her know that I was going to exit and go sit in the bar and wait for her, because I'd had as much trippiness as I could handle. But it was really fun and really bizarre, and it was totally worth the price of admission. I mean, it was a really interesting experience, and I would love to go back, maybe at a time when there aren't 100 million people, and I don't know if such a time exists. The light is shining in just the right way so that I can't see where my dots are supposed to go, my diamonds are supposed to go. Because I'm doing this at sort of a strange angle. It's a good angle for filming. It's less of a good angle for me trying to see what I'm doing. And also this, the plastic cover has been on this long enough that I'm seeing that there are like these, they're not actual rivers, it's just places where the plastic cover either stuck or did not stick to the glue solidly. And so there's places that look like they're rivers, but they're not really. There's plenty of glue on this canvas, trust me. But yeah, so it was a very interesting experience. And then after that, we decided we would go to this handmade noodle place. So it's called Shang's Artisan Noodle in Las Vegas. It's somewhere off the strip. I don't remember exactly where it was. We took Ubers everywhere, or Lyfts, and so I don't rightly remember quite where everything was, if it was off the strip, because we just took a car and the car took us there. But it's not far off the strip, and somebody that my friend had been talking to about Vegas recommended this place to her, and it was really, really fantastic. So I had in my head, because we were in Vegas, that it was going to be this like really sort of like Morimoto's, where it was like fancy and what is the word I'm looking for? Fancy is probably the like just big and Las Vegas-y. You know, it was like shiny, and you know, I had this certain expectation of what it was going to look like. And we got there, and it was actually basically, it was sort of in a strip mall kind of situation, and it was this little not quite. I mean, it was nice inside. It certainly wasn't not nice. It wasn't, you know, run down or anything like that. But it was this small, like mom and pop kind of place. And so I was like, oh, this is cool. And you know, their claim to fame is that they make Asian noodles by hand while you're sitting in the restaurant eating. So it looks a little bit like, and I don't know if everybody in the US has places like this, but there's like these takeout hibachi places which have like seating and tables and stuff, but the grill is sort of in a windowed off area where you can see the cook, you can see the chef making things. And that's how this restaurant was set up. So you have all the tables and everything, and it's, you know, it's small and it's intimate. And then you have this sort of glassed off area where the chefs are preparing noodles and cooking the food. And you could actually see them making the pulled, stretched, twisted. If I can find any pictures, I don't know if I'll actually edit this that much, but if I can find pictures, they're doing the pulled and stretched and twisted noodles, and they also do the chopped up noodles, and they make their own dumplings and stuff too. So it was really, really cool. So we sat down, we ordered some dumplings, we ordered some noodles. We didn't know that the dumplings, because they're made by hand, actually take longer than the noodles. We thought they would be an appetizer, so we didn't get the dumplings until we'd already eaten our noodles. Pardon. And the dishes are deceptively simply named. So when you're looking at the dish names, it seems like it's nothing very fancy. But so I got chicken and mushrooms. And, you know, if I order chicken and mushrooms at a Chinese restaurant, you know, I'm not thinking that it's going to be anything out of this world. It's just going to be, you know, chicken and button mushrooms and whatever. When the bowl came out to me, I got the cut noodles instead of the pulled noodles. And let me just pick my next color. Number 1. These are the ABs, I think. Yes. So when the dish comes out, it was so impressive looking, because it wasn't just like chicken and button mushrooms. We're talking like really nicely shaved chicken. It had a really great texture and a really great sauce on it. And the mushrooms were like, I don't even know how many different types of mushrooms, but it was a variety of really nice, for me, exotic mushrooms. So more like oyster mushrooms and shiitakes and other mushrooms I didn't even have names for. And it was like the best thing I ate in Vegas. It was so good. It was so good. And I almost wanted to go back the next day because the noodles were that good. And I kind of wanted to try the pulled noodles instead of the chopped noodles. But and I forget what my friend had. She had the pulled noodles, I think. And I think she enjoyed her dish just as much as I did, if not more. And the dumplings were good too. They weren't as good as the noodles. The noodles were fantabulous, and I keep craving those noodles over and over again. So yeah. And then we went, after dinner, we went back to the hotel room, or back to our casino, the Luxor, and my friend went and played some slots. She likes to play the quarter slots, like the old school actual cost a quarter per play slots. I don't think I played any slots that night. I think I just went back to the room and crashed because I was exhausted. It had been a long day by that point, so I went back to the room, and that was our second full day in Vegas. And now our third and final day in Vegas, we went to the Grand Canyon, which is actually not in Las Vegas. It's in Arizona. So technically, I got to go to Nevada and Arizona in this one trip. We took a bus tour from the hotel to the west rim of the Grand Canyon, and it was an interesting trip. I was definitely glad I had taken the trip, and the views were phenomenal. It was just interesting for me because usually when I go to visit places like this, you know, there's a certain feeling of awe and wonder and that kind of stuff that you get from these natural wonders that you get to go see. Certainly, those were feelings that I had in the various places that I went to in Ireland, and other places I've been in my life. But for some reason, I I didn't have that same sense of wonder and awe. Certainly, the Grand Canyon is massive and it's an experience, and I think everybody should go and experience it. I was just surprised that I didn't have that like, I don't know, feeling like you're a tiny bit of something so much bigger. It just, I don't know, I can't explain it. I tried to talk to my friend about it and she seemed almost offended. So, because I wasn't complaining, I was more just like, let's talk about the feelings we're having. And I'm surprised I'm not having the feelings I expected to feel. And but she's like, oh, I definitely feel that. And it was kind of it's kind of awkward. But you know, sometimes when you share your real thoughts with people, it gets awkward, and it's just life. But yeah, I mean, it was still a fantastic experience. So it's like 2.5 hours away from Las Vegas. We get on this bus, and I think probably a lot of what impeded my ability to feel all that awe and wonder was the fact that it was 110 or 112 degrees that day. And so we're riding out into the desert in this bus, and well, I'll get to the 110 degrees. Um, but it's, as I said, it's about 2.5 hour drive outside of Las Vegas. And one thing that I did think was really cool about the whole tour is, so we're riding on this regular tour bus, and evidently there's like I don't know if it's a satellite radio channel or what it is, but there's something that's sort of like GPS triggered. It's like a tour guide, and it'll actually tell you how to drive from Las Vegas to the Grand Canyon. It'll tell you how to get to the Hoover Dam if that's where you're going. You know, so it gives you all these instructions on how to actually drive from one place to another, but it also gives you all this history and information about the Hoover Dam and how it came to be, and you know, various things that happened in the course of building the Hoover Dam, and then, you know, talks about the Joshua Tree Forest that's closer into the West Rim, and, you know, all kinds of geological information about the canyon, and, you know, just so on and so forth. And it was kind of annoying at first, because it would interrupt our conversations. It would just come on the PA, and my friend and I we had to stop talking because the PA had come on. But once you got into it, it was actually really kind of cool. And I liked the idea that you could just be um, a random traveler and connect into this GPS tour, and it would tell you exactly where to go and how to get there. It even tells you, you know, that there's extra fees if you're not with a tour and paying their fees. Then there's extra fees when you get onto the native land where the West Rim is located, you know, and all that sort of stuff. Because the Grand Canyon, the West Rim specifically, is part of the Wallapai Nation's land. So that belongs to them, and they maintain it, and they own the the buildings and all that sort of stuff that you go to in the course of visiting the sites on the West Rim. And so that's, you know, there are additional fees for being on the reservation, and all that kind of stuff that are generally wrapped up into your your tour fee if you're with a guided tour like we were. But you'd have to pay that separately if you were traveling on your own onto the land. So they gave us all that information, and a little bit of information about the Wallapai themselves, and not terribly much, which is unfortunate. I would have loved to learn more about them, and um, and just their culture, and their especially their modern culture or modern feelings about things. Um, but yeah, so that was the little tour guide, and our tour included the ability to stop at 3 different places on the west rim of the Grand Canyon. So 2 vista sites, I forget exactly what they called them, but basically 2 vistas, and the third site was a ranch that we opted not to bother with because we didn't have enough time to really take as much time as we wanted to at the 2 vistas and still feel like we could enjoy those and still do the ranch. So we skipped the ranch completely. And that was largely because, that was like horseback riding and learning how people drive cattle or something. It was stuff that was unrelated to the Grand Canyon, or the Wallapai, or anything like that. So we opted not to do that. We went to um, Eagle Rock, and then the other vista is Guano Point, or actually it's Eagle Point and Guano Point. So Eagle Point was probably my favorite, because the rocks in that area, at that vista, actually form what looks like an eagle spanned out between two of the large outcroppings. And it looks really, really cool. And then Guano Point is actually the point that you can actually walk out to, that's so that gives the place its name, is actually it's a fair hike away from the actual rim of the canyon, up to the top of this peak that's sort of separated by, I can't even tell you how much distance. It looked like it was very far away and very scary. I took pictures of Guano Point. I did not walk out to Guano Point. I am not a hiker on my best day, and I'm certainly not a hiker in 110-degree Arizona heat, after having been walking around Vegas like a madwoman for 3 days. So, so I took some pictures from the edge of the canyon. I did not get super adventurous and climb out to anything or hike out to anything, especially because they said, if you have mobility issues, you may not want to make the trek. And I was like, yep, that's me. That day I had mobility issues, because after, like I said, after traveling around, walking around Vegas for 2 days, my calves were to the point, especially after sitting in the cramped bus for 2.5 hours, my calves were to the point where they were not wanting to stretch correctly. And so it really was a situation of not trusting my muscles to move in the ways that I needed them to. So if I was concerned that if I misstepped, that my muscles wouldn't hold, and that I would trip and I would fall off the cliff. So I decided to err on the side of caution, and I stayed well away from the rim. Oh, this is the other thing. So because this is native owned land, native occupied land, they're not subject to federal guidelines as regards safety precautions and things like that. So, whereas in most national parks and things like that, when you get to an area where there's a steep drop off or something like that, you would expect there to be rails and fences and things like that, to keep people from falling off the edge. Well, because the area is not subject to those guidelines, because it's native owned land, they didn't have any fencing along the rim of the canyon, and that's mostly to preserve the natural beauty of it, to leave the vistas open, but it's largely just to leave the land as natural as possible, and which makes total sense. So at Eagle Point, there was sort of a rope fence around the rim, around the edge of the cliff and everything, but at Guano Point there was nothing between you and the sheer edge of the cliff. So while it was really cool and really interesting, I just realized half of that was probably off camera. While it was really cool and really interesting, it was also, I mean, there certainly was that sense of, of danger, of, of your impending mortality. So the other thing, and I forgot about this, so at Eagle Point, one of the other points of interest at that particular vista is the skywalk, and the skywalk is pretty cool. Now, I don't have pictures of the skywalk for a number of reasons. Let's see. We'll do C next. Where is C? If I were to C, where would I be? I know I'm missing it. There it is, number 33. It's in the second box. So the skywalk is this really cool area, it's sort of like I had expected it to be a straight bridge out over the canyon, but what it really is a half moon that juts out from the building across the canyon, or into over across, not really across, like all the way across the canyon, because the canyon's huge, but it juts out over the crevasse. Excuse me. And because it's set up that way, it is made of, I think it's made of glass. It's made of a clear substance. I forget whether it's actually glass or whether it's something like plexi that's a little bit less likely to break. But it's a completely clear surface. In fact, you have to wear little booties to go out onto the skywalk. So that you don't scratch it, and so that everybody can get a fantastic view down into the bottom of the canyon, the valley, and everything like that. And that was one of the really big draws of the West Rim, was getting to go onto the skywalk. And because of the fact that you're literally standing out over the Grand Canyon and the bottom of the valley and everything like that, they don't allow you to take anything out onto the skywalk with you, which makes total sense. I don't question things like that over much anyway, but when they mentioned the fact that, when they started doing these tours and letting people go out into the skywalk, folks were losing hats and wallets and things like that. When you think about the sheer number, or the sheer amount of litter that would end up on the canyon floor if even 1 in 100 people dropped an item every single day, or every single tour group, eventually you wouldn't have a canyon, because it would be full of junk. So it makes total sense. So they made that decision. They asked people they have free lockers that you can use and leave all your stuff in there, anything that you might accidentally drop over the edge. So they do that so that you won't, to preserve the natural wonder, to make sure that there's not a whole bunch of crap going into the valley of the Grand Canyon. So it made total sense. But incidentally, that means that you weren't allowed to have your cell phone, which means that you couldn't take any of your own photos. But they did have photographers there, and you could purchase a photo. You could have them take a photo for you, and you could purchase the photo, and all that sort of stuff, which, part of me kind of wishes I had done that, but at the same time, that's somebody else taking, I don't necessarily want a picture of myself in front of the Grand Canyon and all that sort of stuff. I just want a picture of what I'm seeing. That's part of how I lock in memories, or how I revisit memories, because my memory is pretty shite. It's all kinds of, it's like Swiss cheese, my memory. And so taking pictures to give myself something to connect to about that experience helps me remember the things that I experienced, the things that I went and did, or felt or saw or whatever. So not having a picture kind of makes me sad, but at the same time, I don't need a picture of myself looking hokey in front of the Grand Canyon. I would have preferred a picture that I took, that reminded me of what I saw out of my own eyes. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody but me, but so I have a little sadness that I didn't pay for one of those pictures, but only so much. I got tons of pictures of the other parts of the Grand Canyon, and I still, because I have those other pictures, I can remember that I went to the skywalk, and I can remember that how exhilarating and how creepy at the same time it was to be standing on glass, looking, I want to say, 3,500 feet below me, to a dry riverbed, so it was pretty miraculous and also slightly terrifying all at the same time. And I remember as I was walking around, because there are sections that are like metal, pieces holding the glass pieces together. And I remember sort of staying to the sides and staying on the metal pieces and stuff, because there was a part of me that was just certain that if I stood directly in the center of the glass, I was just going to fall through. So, but I am happy to say that I didn't have any like weird vertigo, um, scary moments where I was, where I felt like I was going to die or anything like that. So apparently I'm not terribly scared of heights. I don't have a fear of heights so much as a completely natural concern over heights. But it was a really cool experience. It's something that you can't be out there but so long, just because there's so many other people trying to be out there and trying to have their experience too. But it was really good. I'm really glad that we did the skywalk, even though I didn't get a picture. I'm glad for having had that moment where I could look out and see how big it was and how just how far down and deep it was. But I think probably if I had it to do it again, I would not do it in July. If I got a chance to go visit the Grand Canyon, and if I did, I probably would try to see one of the other, because there's a number of different, I don't know if there's literally an east, north, south, and west rim as well, but I do know that there are multiple locations on the rim of the Grand Canyon where you can go and do tours like that. So I think if I had it to do again, I would do certainly a different rim just to get to see a different part of the Grand Canyon, or I would do the helicopter tour, because I think that might have what made it lacking to really get a sense of the wonder and the thrill and the massiveness of it, was because you cannot possibly grasp how big the Grand Canyon really is from just standing on one part of the rim. There's no way to really get the grandiose nature of the whole thing. So I think that's something that I would do too, is try to do a helicopter tour to get a full thing. And I would also do it in maybe March instead of instead of July, when it was literally, there were at least one of the days we were in Vegas, it was 117 degrees. And even at night, because my brother kept counseling me, because he's been to Vegas a number of times, and he kept counseling me to take, some long pants or a sweater or something like that, because the nights would get really cold. But let me tell you, I think the coolest it got at nighttime was 95 degrees. So full dark, sun's been down for hours, and it's still over 90 degrees in Las Vegas in the desert. It was hot, hot. So, and actually, I think um, some of my favorite views of the Grand Canyon were actually along our drive away from the canyon, which is really interesting to me. But I got some fantastic pictures. It was really beautiful. And it was enormous. And I think I would like to experience it again by helicopter, just to be able to see like more of it, to be able to really get a sense of just how gigantic and enormous the whole formation is. And it is kind of awe-inspiring when you think about the fact that water caused all of that. Ultimately, water, I realize I'm not doing anything on the screen, but but the simple water eroded all of these patterns and formations in the rock and stuff, and it is pretty cool. I wish I'd had all of this sense of wonder and in awe while I was there, but I think I was just too overheated. It was just too much. Maybe we should have done the Grand Canyon our first day. Maybe I could have enjoyed the experience a little bit more if we'd done it our first day. So, yeah, so after that, we didn't do anything fancy for dinner that night. We just ate at the hotel. We ate at the Luxor, at the Diablo Cantina, and it was nothing special. We did, we played some slots after we got back and had dinner. Let me look for a new color, because I could actually be doing something if I'd look for the color. I'm acting like I'm doing a live, aren't I? Because I'm just like, da 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 da. Y'all don't need to see anything. Let's see. Where is K? K, K, K. No, not K, K, K. I'm looking for the letter K. There we go, 24. Do, do, do. Yeah, we're not, it's too much like Candyman. We're not saying that 3 times fast. Anyway, so yeah, so then I went and played the slots for a bit, and I actually did decently. That was when I became obsessed with the, well, actually, I'd become obsessed with the Game of Thrones slots long before then. But that was when I located my machine in our casino in the Luxor that was the Game of Thrones slot machine. And I hit this one run where I think I hit like the 5 free spins, and then when it went to the 5, I think I have some video of this, or maybe it was it might have been when I played the one on Fremont Street at the Fremont Hotel. But I have some video that, if I can think of it, I will splice it in here, of some of the mini games that come up. So when I was playing that last night, I hit like a 5 free spin mini game, and then I hit the Ice King and or the Night King, and that spawned several other wins. And then Dragon came up a couple times, and just all kinds of stuff was happening. It was so fun and it was so exciting. And I think I won $60, and then I tapped out because I'm like, because I was like, oh, I've won money. I don't, because this is how I play slots. So a lot of people, they don't like to play slots because you can lose your money too fast. I look at it as paying to play a video game. The money that I put in the machine is just like if I were putting quarters into a Pac-Man machine. So my main goal is not necessarily to win a bunch of money, though if I did, that'd be awesome. My main goal is just to have a good time, and so and to make my money last as long as possible, so that I can have as much time playing as I would like to have playing without spending all my money. And so what I generally do is I'll have in mind an amount of money that I'm willing to spend that day on that entertainment. And it helped that all of the machines take cash, and I didn't let myself have but so much cash at any given time, so that I wouldn't be tempted to get on that streak of, well, if I just put in $5 more, maybe I'll win something. So, I kind of predetermine how much I'm willing to spend. And if I win enough that I feel like I'm up on that amount, or I've had enough fun, then I will quit. Or if I spend all my money, I will quit. Spend all the money that I allotted. So, and that's why I don't play craps and blackjack and stuff like that, because it's way too easy to get in the moment. And besides the fact that I think most of the tables have like $3 or $5 minimums, and I'm not good at that kind of betting. I really just want to play a video game. So I think I had put like $20 into that machine, and I ended up cashing out 67 or something like that. So I was like, yep, I'm done. This is good. This is all I need to do today. And then I went back to the room and started working on packing and stuff like that. So all in all, the trip was really fun. I do wish we'd had more time. My brother is insistent now that he and I need to take a trip to Vegas, so that we can do it in a little more leisurely pace. Maybe go for a week or something like that, and just kind of wander the different hotels, the different casinos, and because there's so much more to see than we even attempted to see when my friend and I were there. So there may be another Vegas vacation sometime in the next couple of years. We'll have to see. My brother is itching to travel, especially with COVID and everything. He hasn't had a chance to get out and do much. And he's definitely in a position where he wants to travel as much as he can while he's able to, because he knows that his time for traveling is limited at this point. And a lot of that is because, and I don't think I've talked about it on this channel, I'm not going to get way too into the details, but essentially my brother has some health issues, mostly stemming from diabetes and complications of diabetes. So he has very little vision. He has enough vision that he can get himself around as far as walking, and doing basic daily tasks and things like that. So he has enough vision. He still runs his collectible card and board game shop. He can still see enough to do that kind of stuff, but his vision is significantly limited. and he can't drive anymore. And he has some mobility issues because he has had infections in both of his legs multiple times over the last several years. And, you know, so he knows that his time is limited. So he wants to get out and he wants to do while he's still capable. And I totally get that. And I support that. I especially support him being as independent as he can for as long as he can, because that's, you know, that's not something that's going to be a forever thing either. So yeah, so at some point, and I'm not gonna do the whole thing of, you know, sometime we'll go back to Vegas. I'm looking at the next year or two, depending on how COVID goes and how other things go, because you never know how much time you have, and you know, all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, that was our Vegas vacation. Let's see. We're 45 minutes in, so I'll give a little bit of like life update stuff. I think I keep sliding this here at the end here, because I don't really know what else to talk about. So talking about traveling and things like that. So Adam and I are getting ready to go back to see his family. As I mentioned somewhere recently, my last WIP and chat. Yeah, my last WIP and chat. His grandmother unfortunately passed away recently, and it took them a while to get the services scheduled. And I think some of that was to allow all the grandkids to come in from out of state, and and just working with her church and their availability and all that sort of stuff. So the services are going to be a week from tomorrow. And we're going to be traveling and going up there. And it's going to be this whirlwind kind of trip, because we're going to drive up the day before. So we'll get in the night before. We're going to go to the services, spend some time with the family that day. And then we're going to start driving back the next morning. So we're going to be there like 48 hours. We're not even going to be in town for 48 hours, because we learned from the last trip we took up there that it's really better if we can split the drive home into two sections, because his family lives in way upstate New York, like real upstate, where they're 20 miles outside of Canada upstate. So so it's a long drive, and it takes half the drive to get just from New York City to where his family is. So probably what we'll do is we'll start driving Saturday morning and stop somewhere New Jersey-ish for the evening, and then we'll pick back up the next day, because the big issue is avoiding the bad traffic and the rush hour and stuff around New York City is not that difficult. You can time that fairly well. The problem is trying not to hit all of the rush hour traffic through Baltimore, DC, and Northern Virginia. That's the harder part, and that's why the last time we came through Baltimore at like 2 or 3, so we hit DC at like the worst time, and we got stuck in Fredericksburg, and it was awful because Fredericksburg traffic. So we're going to try to split it up into 2 legs so that we can hopefully avoid all of the DC and Northern Virginia stuff. DC itself is not so bad to navigate now, because they have an HOV and commuter express lane that you can pay extra toll so that you can zip through on the express lane. And trust me, I'm not above paying $8 to get through that traffic. It's a pricey toll, but you know what? It's totally worth it. It was totally worth it in my opinion. I'd have paid more money just to be able to zip through like we did. But then that runs out around Stafford, I think. And then you get stuck in traffic from there down to Fredericksburg. So Stafford's mile marker 140 and Fredericksburg is 126. So standstill traffic for 20-ish miles is no fun. So yeah, so that's what's coming up next week. Incidentally, that means that I'm going to be trying. It's hard to get videos out right now, and a lot of that, you probably have noticed that since I've been back. A lot of that has been physical fatigue, like just trying to get back into the groove and everything. And I've not been feeling well the last couple of weeks, so that has definitely impacted things. But it's also trying to get back into the groove with work. So I'm just like, I'm trying to balance everything, and I'm not doing real great at spinning all the plates right now. And I think some of it is feeling like I'm holding my breath over this trip for Adam's grandmother's memorial. I'm hoping that once we have had that and had that closure, I apologize, I keep bumping the camera. I think once we've had, or I'm hoping that once we've had that closure, that I'll be able to kind of settle back in and get into a more productive routine and feel more settled and motivated and stuff like that. We'll see. We'll see. I kind of feel like July has been the lost month because I mean, I've certainly gotten things done. Work has been very busy, much busier since the beginning of the fiscal year than it had been. And that's largely because the managers are starting to actually travel again. So they're going to trade shows and having face-to-face meetings again, at least for the time being. I don't know what the Delta variant is going to do and how that's going to impact things. But while they're doing that, that means that there's more stuff that I need to do to support them for those trips that I haven't been doing all this time, because they've been working. They've been having virtual meetings and going to virtual conferences and things like that. And there's significantly less that I need to do to support them for that. So work has been very, very busy, not stressful so much, just like, it's more like, and not that I'm an exercise or training person, but I kind of would make the analogy that it's sort of like when you are the kind of person who's used to training for marathons, but you had to take a year off for something, and now you're trying to remember all the steps that you needed to take and all the things that you did on a regular basis to not only to train, but to like maintain um, your fitness and all that sort of stuff. That's kind of what it feels like. It's like I remember sort of all the things that I used to have to do, but I'm really rusty, and trying to get back into a regular schedule and manage that along with all the new regular stuff just kind of feels like my muscles are stretched a little bit more than I would like. I feel a little bit uncomfortable and tired, but eventually I will get used to the workload and everything will be good. You know, that's kind of how, at least I'm hoping. I'm only just now realizing, I think, like fully realizing how much other stuff I have picked up to do, not only directly in my day job, but in my personal life. Well, not necessarily my personal life, but like my second job, second and third jobs, we'll call them. So, you know, I had started floss tube before long before 2020, like 2018, 2019, something like that. Not long before. Wow, I don't know how time works anymore. But anyway, I had started it while, you know, working in an office was still a thing, before teleworking became the thing. And you know, and I was only doing one video every 2 weeks or something like that. I forget when I started doing a weekly video. I think that came along, that must have come along sometime after I was teleworking, doing floss tube every single week. That, or doing both floss tube and knitcast every week, came after the teleworking started. Regardless, I started doing a lot more filming and posting a lot more stuff. May not seem like it, but for me, it was a lot more since teleworking, because at a minimum, at a bare minimum, I have like 2.5 hours of extra time in my day because I don't have to drive back and forth to work. And I get a little bit more sleep because I don't have to get up as early to be at work. So, my start time for my work day is 7:30. And when I have to drive into the office, I generally have to get up between 5 and 5:30 to make sure that I get up, get dressed, get together whatever lunch and breakfast I need to get together, feed the cats, all that sort of stuff, and then get on the road before the traffic gets bad, because I need to be leaving the house between 6 and 6:15 to be to work by 7:30. And that sounds, it's only a 35-minute drive, but so theoretically I should be able to leave at 6:45 and be good, right? Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Because once the traffic, like if I leave my house after 6:30, there's a decent shot that I will get caught up in traffic in at least one of 3 or 4 places on my route, that will cause a delay of anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes. So my 30-minute commute can quickly become a 45-minute to an hour commute if I time it wrong. So the best thing to do is to leave as close to 6 o'clock as possible. And generally speaking, get to the office at 7, even though my hours are 7:30 to 4:30. But, part of that is, or part of what I would use that time for, was to go ahead and have breakfast at work, because to have breakfast at home would mean getting up even earlier. So generally speaking, I would make breakfast stuff, like oatmeal, or yogurt and fruit and stuff like that. I would have that kind of stuff that I could very easily fix very quickly once I got to the office and eat before my workday started. So that's, I'd fix my coffee, I'd fix my breakfast, so that 30 minutes wasn't wasted time. But if I ran late, I didn't have time for breakfast. So, there is that. So like I said, and then in the afternoon, goodness, if I left late, if I did not get out of the office at 4:30 or slightly before 4:30, I was definitely going to take at least an hour getting home. So I've recovered a lot of time in my day. And then I also just have generally more energy because I'm not dealing with the commute. I'm not having to expend all of my energy peopling all day. And probably, and I don't think I've even realized the extent to which this is true, but probably I have more energy because I don't have to mask all day. I don't have to do those things that make me feel like I appear more normal to other people. And I don't even know exactly what all of my masking behaviors are. I do know that it's hard to explain what my masking behaviors are. And this is an ADHD thing and sometimes an autism thing. But masking is essentially, if you're not familiar with the term, it's essentially behaviors that you engage in to cover up symptoms of your mental differences, your neurological differences. I'm not going to say disorders because it's not disorders, it's differences. ADHD is a neurological difference and autism is a neurological difference. Now they can cause disabilities. They can cause you to be functionally disabled because you can't function in a neurotypical world. But ADHD is not, it's not a dysfunction in and of itself. It's not a disability in and of itself. It's a difference. So anyway, and so masking is, is a behavior that you do to appear more neurotypical, to appear more, for lack of a better term, quote unquote, normal in the rest of the world. For ADHD folks, this looks a little different than it does for autistic folks or folks with autism. I apologize, I can't remember which is the more appropriate way to say it, whether it's, I think it's folks with autism is the more appropriate way to say it. If that is not, please let me know. I much prefer to refer to folks the way they want to be referred to when it comes to things like this. So anyway, it can be different for different neurodivergencies. For ADHD folks, my understanding is it's more things you wouldn't even consider masking, like perfectionism can be a masking behavior, because you're so worried that you're not doing things well or you're not doing things right, that you overwork yourself to try to get to where you think you need to be. And that's definitely one of my issues. But also simple things like not fidgeting during meetings. And I have a tendency to pick at my fingers. And that's something that I can't do during a meeting because it would look weird to other people. You know, and humming during the day or singing when the music is on, or when I have music playing, you know, just weird little noises that you make when you're by yourself that you can't make when other people are around. You know, it's just all kinds of random stuff like that. So, I don't even know how much I actually do because I don't really pay attention by and large to what I'm doing. Let's see, we're looking for 34 now, which is a pretty blue. So yeah, I have more energy, I have more time, and so I don't know what's going to happen when I have to go back to the office, especially if it does turn out that I have to go back to the office full time and there is no option for teleworking. I'm really hoping that there's going to be a permanent teleworking policy, but I have no idea if that's really going to happen. So we'll have to see. And I don't know what I'm going to manage to keep up once I have to work in an office again. So yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah. So I forgot totally where I was going with that. I think mostly I was just talking about making videos and stuff. Oh, I think that was my point, was I was trying to get videos made so that you'd have stuff to watch while I'm out of town. That was a circuitous route, wasn't it? So yeah, I'm trying to work in the next few days on getting some videos recorded. This one not being the least of them, so that I can post that stuff while we're out of town. We're only going to be out of town for a couple of days, but it's going to be, next week is going to be a stressful week, I think, because it's a short work week, but I have a lot of things I need to get done. And then we're going to be traveling, and that's going to be exhausting. And, you know, just the emotional toll that the trip is going to take overall, because, you know, it's a very different situation mourning in this particular circumstance, but it's still mourning, it's still grief, and that can be really exhausting. And being around people in the midst of their grief can be really exhausting. I'm just, it's easier for me in this particular circumstance because she wasn't my close family. I mean, I certainly will miss her. I'll miss all of the opportunities we didn't have, because I didn't know her for very long, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And it's certainly still sad for me. It's just, it's sort of like watching it from from outside, and just kind of being tangentially connected. So it's going to be still going to be rough, but it's not going to be rough as it could be. So, but yeah, so that's the next week for me. Hoping to have some fun stuff for you. I'm planning, if I can manage it, I want to do a WIP parade, the WIPs thus far, as it were. I keep thinking of Supernatural and how they do the story so far at the beginning of some of the episodes, and that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, like the WIPs so far. So I'm hoping to film that sometime this weekend, to have come up on the channel on Friday when I would normally have FlossTube. So it'll be a FlossTube extra, but it will happen when you would have gotten a normal FlossTube. And hopefully that'll be interesting for you. I actually just recently went through and cataloged all of my WIPs, and I have currently, assuming I counted Twisted Rainbow Sampler, I have 25 WIPs. Like active WIPs. So that's not including pieces that I have retired. That's not including pieces that have been put in timeout. That's pieces that I am considering active and still plan on working on, and or that appear on my WIP Go board. So it's a lot of WIPs, at least for me. I mean, I used to be the kind of person that felt like you could only work on one cross stitch piece at a time, and you had to finish that, and then you could move on to another piece. And I will tell y'all, it was the most freeing thing ever when I realized that it was a thing in the cross stitch community to just have a bazillion million WIPs and work on whatever you feel like working on. And if it takes you 6 years to finish something, who cares? That was like the most freeing thing ever. And I think that's why cross stitch has been my main craft for a number of years now, is because I have the ability and the opportunity to switch out this project for another project when this project is no longer giving me the dopamine rush that I need, you know? Because I think that's why I have switched between crafts so often, is because it's all exciting and new, and I buy all the things and I do it for a couple months, and then it's not exciting and new anymore, and you know, the fun and the shiny wears off. And so I switched to something new, and now it's exciting, and I'm learning all about that, and I'm buying all the things for that thing. And again, you know, just cycling through. But cross stitch, it's like, oh, this chart is super fun and exciting, and I'm going to get into it. And okay, well, now I've worked on it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and now it's not shiny and new. But ooh, look at this new shiny chart from this new shiny designer, and or this new shiny silk or whatever. And it's just like, yep, I put this one, I'm just going to set this one aside and pick up this new WIP. It's all good, and it's totally acceptable, and it's totally fine, and nobody looks at me funny for having 29 unfinished projects. So it works really well for me, really, really well. Okay, well, I think I've rambled at you enough now. We're at over an hour, so I think I'm going to go ahead and shut this down for this time. I do hope to be doing more WIP chats for you. I think part of the reason that I don't do more of them is because I feel like I don't know what to talk about. So on that topic, in comments, if you've gotten this far, why don't you let me know some things you'd be interested in having me discuss during a WIP chat. There are certainly a lot of topics that I gravitate towards, and sometimes when I'm crafting, I'm having random thoughts, and I'm like, you know what, I really should record this as a WIP chat, and then I just don't get the opportunity. So topics that I know that I could just expand on for an hour or more, you're talking about gender, talking about women in the superhero universe, talking about television and movies in general. Y'all know I can just talk forever on that. Books and comic books and things like that. You know, those kinds of things I can talk about for ages and ages. So, but let me know what y'all are interested in hearing me discuss. And in addition, or not in addition, but also just to let you know, I do hope to get back into doing a monthly live. And I want to work into doing both a monthly live and a Patreon Zoom. But I keep not mentioning, not mentioning it because I don't know when I'm going to be able to do it. Excuse me. Because it does require me to schedule and dedicate and commit to a certain amount of time on a regular basis, and I don't want to put that out there until I'm ready to commit that time, if that makes sense. So but in the meantime, whatever you let me know what you want to hear in a WIP chat, and I'll see what I can do. I know a couple of you have requested some tutorial type videos. I'm going to be working on those going forward as well. I know I keep saying that, but it's on my list. It's on my to-do list. It'll get done eventually. So but yeah, so just let me know, and I'll see what I can do. And you know, in the meantime, I hope you have enjoyed this discussion of my Vegas trip and then other random stuff. And I hope that you are I hope that you're doing well. I keep dropping my drills all over the thing. I hope that you're doing well, that you're having the best day, week, month that is available to you, and you know, that you're staying safe and you're staying as healthy as possible. And you know, if you've enjoyed this, definitely hit the like button and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more of this content or any other content that I put up. And you know, definitely hit that bell as well if you want to be notified anytime I post whatever random stuff I post. Until the next time, remember to stay hydrated, remember to take all the meds that you need to take, and remember that you are enough. I love you all. I'll see you again next time.